Thank you for joining me today for this presentation on how to use OpenCorporates for investigations. I'm Rebecca Lee and I'm OpenCorporates Chief Impact Officer. My role is to focus on using my subject matter expertise in investigations and anti-financial crime to maximise our public benefit mission, working with journalists and civil society such as yourselves to find stories in our data, to strengthen the case for open company data and to help uncover financial crime. So what is OpenCorporates? Well, we're the largest open database of companies in the world. Today we have 187 million companies, 239 million officerships across 139 jurisdictions. Our mission is to make company data open for all and to map every legal entity from official public data in order to promote global corporate transparency. As part of this, we collect, standardise and make company data available via our website for free. We build new ways to make the data as usable as possible. It's available via API, bulk data, and corporate signals is our new innovation, which creates events for key changes in companies, such as director changes. And we work to open up company data across the world. Over 5 million unique users use our website per month, alongside over 400 commercial organisations who use our data at scale. And we give access to the same data at scale via API and bulk data for free to public benefit individuals and organisations such as investigative journalists and NGOs. To give some specific examples of how our data is used in the investigation space, I'm sure the Panama Papers needs no introduction. We work directly with the ICIJ to help them release a part of the 11.5 million files as open data and connect company and director names to OpenCorporates. We also saw a surge of visits. In 3 days, nearly 85 million visitors searched for information about officers. And when the registry in Panama went down, OpenCorporates was there to provide that public source for that information. The jade industry in Burma was worth a staggering $31 billion in 2014, equivalent to half of Burma's official GDP. Global Witness undertook a year-long investigation to tell the story of this mineral and who really benefits from it, in essence, Burma's military elite. One important aspect of the work was data analysis using our data to understand the complex webs of companies and their ownership, even as companies were being removed from the official register as their investigation took place, as well as the full-scale removal of the section of the registry covering shareholders. So therefore, the historical data we held was critical in establishing which companies might have been suppressing key information about their connections. And the fact that it was made available via an API enabled Global Witness to build their own tools to identify linkages and relationships between individuals and companies mentioned in the report. More recently, the Anti-Corruption Data Collective and the Miami Herald looked into the US government's Paycheck Protection Program, which was intended to be a lifeline for small businesses hit by COVID. And over $659 billion in low-interest loans was offered to businesses as an incentive to keep employees on their payroll. Of course, there was eligibility criteria to prevent the money being claimed fraudulently. For example, companies must have been in operation on 15th of February 2020. Yet the investigation found that millions of dollars had gone to companies who did not meet that criteria and that had been newly set up. They combined OpenCorporates data with the government's publicly available dataset of more than 600,000 businesses that received loans of more than $150,000 and used the API to filter these down to a subset of companies based on the incorporation date, helping them to identify where companies had actually been incorporated after 15th of February. At least 75 companies failed to meet the eligibility criteria, claiming PPP loans worth between $20 million and $50 million in total. At least $3.5 million was loaned to 5 businesses seemingly connected to the same man, and some businesses received loans which had owners with questionable records, including bankruptcies and fraud convictions. But let's switch now over to a demo. So we're at opencorporates.com and our search page is directly on the front page, so no messing around. Before I dig into the search though, I thought I'd look at a couple of useful things. Browsing all jurisdictions will take you to the registers page of all the company registers we have and show you the number of companies and offices. This is a great starting point if you want to know the register of a certain country or jurisdiction. Even if we don't have the data, we have a link through to the appropriate registry. If you click on the register link, this will give you information about the register, and the exclamation mark denotes there's a data quality note. The link from the number of companies or officers will take you to the search results for that registry. The Basel AML Index is an independent annual ranking that assesses the risk of money laundering and terrorist financing around the world, published by the Basel Institute. And the openness score is from our own Open Company Data Index. This is a great resource to look at what is available in each jurisdiction and how open the data is. So let's take a look at one, Bulgaria. So Bulgaria gives you some information on the data quality notes particular to Bulgaria, and in the yellow you can see the Open Company Data Index. This will take you through to the Open Company Data Index website. The total score for each country is out of 100, so Denmark and UK scores 90 as top performers, but there are lots at the bottom with 0. Points are given if it's freely searchable, openly licensed, freely available, and publicly available information has directors, shareholders, and annual accounts information. But back to company registers. It's worth noting that it's not just about countries. The UK has one register, but the United States has one per state, and Germany from different regions. All of our data comes from official sources, most from the company registers themselves, but there are a couple such as Germany where we retrieve the information from gazettes. In fact, Germany is a quite interesting example. The incorporation of companies and subsequent changes is handled not by a central register, but by 150 district courts. And several courts might issue the same identifier, so it becomes unique only when paired with the court that issued it. Additionally, when a company moves its headquarters from one court to another, it gets issued a new identifier by the court, leading to multiple registrations and identifiers per legal entity. At the moment we have 135 jurisdictions globally, although some of these are archived datasets. I think that's just about enough for registers for now. Let's delve into a search. As you can see, we have about 187 million companies at present across those 139 jurisdictions. OpenCorporates has taken a pragmatic and what we think is sensible approach to defining companies, as it changes from country to country and culture to culture. A company is something registered by a company register. Or in other ways, companies are legal entities granted extra legal protection. They can enter into contracts, break the law, and own things. Let's use a company that we're already aware of, Mossack Fonseca. I'm going to start here with companies and look at all jurisdictions, although using this drop-down, if we want to, we can limit to a specific jurisdiction. What you can see after the name is the search preview. There's a jurisdiction flag, but it's in text for those of us who don't know all the flags. Date incorporated and the dissolution date, if relevant and we have it. Registered address, and the icon here takes you to Google Maps. Previous names, alternative names, trademark held. And in blue, it identifies that it's a part of a user-managed corporate grouping, which I'll talk about in more detail later. What you can see here is the advanced options for searching. Standard free accounts give you access to advanced search options, particularly for addresses, but I'll show you off some of these a bit later. We upgrade accounts for journalists to our enterprise web accounts. And you can contact me to do this, and I'll show you how to do this at the end. But importantly, two functions that this will give you is to increase the number of search results and extract this information to CSV or Excel. So as we go down, we can see the various filtering options on the right hand side by jurisdiction, data held, current status, company type, and industry classification. And here you can change the results per page to 100 and extract each page to CSV. And if you go into this, you'll be able to see the core information extracted into Excel here. Okay, first, as an example of the widest types of information we have, and I'm going to start with Mossack Fonseca Limited, as it's still active. So we have the company number, status, incorporation date, which is only a year ago, and the beneficial owner and officer is one Matthew McAhon. But given what we know about Mossack Fonseca, it's a bit odd that the industry codes are artistic ones. So the directors and officers allow us to see the information of the director, Interestingly, he's also an artist, and we can see similarly named officers on the right, some James Matthew and some Matthew James. But let's hold off on that now and back to the company page. Here you have a direct link to the registry page and when we retrieved that information. Companies House were in sync, which means the retrieved that date we show here is the last date there was an update on the company. That's the case for some registers like France. Otherwise, it's actually the last retrieved date. Further down, we can see the statements of control, filings and industry codes. The statements on the control statement goes directly to the statement and gives you further details as well as the provenance and when we can infer that this applied to. Similar on the filings. You can see the information on the provenance, when we retrieved it, and this link will take you directly to the document. On the top right, we have company networks. As this is only one beneficial owner and no chain, this is quite a simple one to look at. At the moment, our network data is limited to a few different sources. Filings made by large domestic and foreign companies to the US SEC. Banking data held by the US National Information Center of the Federal Reserve System. People with significant control, PSC, from Companies House in the UK. And information about individual shareholders, which publish official corporate registries such as New Zealand and Denmark. Events or corporate signals is our newest innovation, taking our data and creating specific records that are key to a company life cycle. It's not an audit, but it highlights incorporations, dissolutions, reactivations, status changes, name changes, officer additions and removals, and gazette notices such as wind-up notices or meetings of creditors. There isn't many here, but if we look at one of the other Mossack Fonseca companies in Panama and their events, you can see a range of addition of officers, and then you can see the change of status from active to suspended. Now, none of the Mossack Fonseca companies have submitted their accounts in the UK via XBRL, the electronic filing standard, but we have this both through the UK and Denmark. So let's just show you a Danish one so that you can see what I'm talking about. And over here you can see the financial summary. In fact, Denmark has also got shareholding information, which you can see down here via shares issued and shareholdings in other companies. There are some jurisdictions which have a raft of other information. Quilliam plc, for example, was the largest ever trading liquidation in the UK and was a construction and facilities management firm. What you can see is that we have a raft of company addresses, UK health and safety notices, financial transactions, other register entries, gazette notices, and all the way down here we have trademark registrations. In fact, gazette notices are a fabulous source of information, often indicating changes such as wind-ups months before the official register changes. If you're interested, we wrote a blog about a famous incident in the UK around a company called Patisserie Valerie. So what's going to be obvious from this is that different information is available in different jurisdictions. If we go back to the company page for this particular company, we can see here that there is a corporate grouping that's been created for Mossack Fonseca. Corporate groupings are user-created collections of different companies that humans, as opposed to corporate lawyers, consider part of the same group. And this allows hard legal entities to be linked to fuzzy entities, such as Wikipedia articles, allowing information to be collected in a distributed and open way. As you can see, there have been a number of people who have added various Mossack Fonseca companies to this group. Another example of this is the corporate grouping for Donald Trump. And you can see here that this is over 1,000 companies in this grouping. And initially this took over a year to compile. So let's go back to Mossack Fonseca in the UK. Apart from Limited, which I think we've already established isn't potentially relevant, we can already see here that there's a similarity within the rest of the registered addresses. And this leads us to a very handy search option within registered address. Handily, they're at a house name, which in name building in this case is pretty helpful. So we can now search that against our registered addresses. And I get 1,269 companies here. In fact, if you go through them and have a quick Google search, it's pretty easy to spot an incorporation service, RM Company Services Limited, which is the correspondence address of many of the addresses. And you have to believe me, but these lead right back to individuals and Mossack Fonseca. In fact, because company names might be in correspondence addresses, this is also another good tip to search. So if we put RM Company Services in the search box here, we see 167 companies, which also gives me some different addresses that I can search by. And don't forget that companies can also be officers. So we can see 487 officerships, different positions that RM Company Services have taken for companies. But of course, what we also want to do is have a look at RM Company Services as a company itself. And we can see here 5 companies, one of which is Pearl Parkway Limited. And it's at the same registered address and has a previous name of RM Company Services Limited and Armadillo Legal Limited. And it is currently dissolved. But if I go back again, I also see an active company called Armadillo Legal Limited, which also had a previous name of RM Company Services Limited. And if I go into Barrington Company Secretaries Limited, I can see not the Armadillo Limited and Armadillo International, and a wide range of other similar offices. You may have been eagle-eyed to notice that Emmanuel Isaac Chaim Cohen has come up in several of the pages that I've shown you, either as a director or as a beneficial owner, and he was the public face of Mossack Fonseca & Co. UK. So the one thing that I wanted to pick up is the use of names. So as it stands up here, similarly named officers found 132. And we can replicate this in the search bar up here. But what we see often is slight changes in name, and particularly taking off the use of middle names. And so if we search for Emmanuel Cohen, you'll see he exists in a lot more places, and it's likely to be the same person because of the same address. One last thing to note. The power of OpenCorporates is its ability to search data across jurisdictions. And what you can see here is actually I've limited myself to the United Kingdom. When you're searching, keep an eye on this. Make sure that you're aware of what jurisdiction you're looking at. And also search globally, because globally allows you to find linkages across companies and officerships that you might not have been able to find otherwise. So that's a wrap for the demo itself. If you're interested in open company data, there's 2 great reports covering the EU and US on our blog. So key links to get you started, obviously opencorporates.com, and a huge amount of information is available on our blog as well. You can apply for a public benefit API key at the link. Please mention the CIJ in this presentation, and the API documentation is on the second link. The Investigator's Handbook has a wealth of useful resources and tutorials, which we're refreshing at the moment. We'd love to profile your stories. We've just released a case study from the Anti-Corruption Data Collective and Miami Herald about their COVID story. So finally, if I leave you with anything, please do reach out to me. Contact me for an upgrade to a free enterprise account. Just create a standard account and then email me with the details of that. Access to bulk data, or for any support with potential stories or queries that you have. I'm available at community@opencorporates.com. Thanks for listening today and get in touch.